Hello, this is Dr. Mike, and this is for my CIS 2642 pen testing class, and we're looking at a quick demo for vulnerability analysis 1 and maybe a little bit of 2. This section here on the 16 week is split into two parts. We dive a little deeper into analysis 2, so maybe there'll be another demo for that. But for now, though, we're going to really carry over the theme of bringing sort of recon into vulnerability analysis, or vulnerability assessment, I should say. So we've done scanning, but we produce a lot of output. But there's ways we can use this output, and we'll take a look at it. So first off, I will just do a quick walkthrough here of a previous demo that I have canned somewhere else. But you can see here we have an Nmap scan. So we identified VSFT port 2.3.4. We've gone through the process of identifying that could be something about that we're curious about. Maybe we see there's an exploit DB entry for it that does show Metasploit, which is that should throw a flag up. You can definitely use that. And then we have the exploit code here in case we want to see it. But also we can search for it in Metasploit. So Metasploit, I think I'll do a more demo video on that, but that's a huge tool, so it's hard just to do one demo video about all of it. You definitely need the help page for it. I still use the help pages. Search, info, and use are some of the main commands you can use at the Metasploit framework command line. In this case, we're going to search for VSFTP. We see it matches 234 backdoor. It matches what's an exploit DB. So with that in mind, we use it, use exploit, and use your tab completion with this hint. So like if I use exp hit tab exploit un exploit, Unix Linux might be in both. So when you do the search, you'll see where it's at. You get the full path here. It's under Unix, even though it might be a Linux system. So keep that in mind. And basically now we look at show options. So show and set are our next things here. So when show options, we see our options. A lot of times they're going to be the host and port. So in this case, or hosts. So it might be our host or our port. So there's local host, lhost, and our host or our hosts. So pretty simple. You type in set our hosts. I think you can do lowercase. In this case, the IP address or domain, and it comes back. It tells you it's been set. And we show options. We can see now it is set here, and the port 21 is already correct based off our Nmap scan. We know that. It is set to port 21. If it's set maybe port 2120 or some other custom port, then we would do set our port to that port number. And then we exploit it. So I think type exploit or run, either one works. You type the exploit, it grabs the banner, looks like, it's using this password, the backdoor service has been spawned, and we actually have a command shell open. So this is a root shell. So this demo is actually off Metasploitable 2. But it's just quicker to show you this and run through. So I'm going to walk through a little more details of that later. But for now, let's take a look at actually working with our scan results and digging deeper. So the same process here. Here we can see we have, again, this is actually I'm doing the demo here in NetLab for the Ethical Hacking NetLab. And we're sitting on Kali right here, which I've opened in a separate window. And we're going to target, of course, our OWASP BWA, which is a broken web app. You can see, of course, we've already Nmap scanned it right here. And I mentioned before that, of course, we want to do a deeper dive Nmap -sv. Real common to do this, of course. And this is, again, it's like recon. So it's kind of stuff you would copy and paste into your notes. I'm not keeping notes, of course, here. I would, if I'm doing something like on Linux here, I might just open a text, maybe open Google Doc if I'm logged in, or just a text page, just a text editor, and just copy and paste stuff here. You can do stuff with terminals where you can actually like save the entire output. There's ways to, it depends on the shell. You can save output to a text file. If you want to dump it all, it could be a lot more noise, but in this case, of course, I'll copy this. And we see we have of course, again, the juicy stuff here, right? These are the juicy bits. Port number, if it's open, and its version number. This is the kind of stuff you want. So again, we're still recon, vulnerability collecting. But we'll take a deeper dive here. Maybe we want to take a look at this and we want to save this results. And that's what I was looking at in the previously was a lot of output could be saved. So with Nmap, we can actually do our SV here, and then I can do dash OX, output in XML. And I give it a name, and this is a bwa.xml. We'll call it that, and then of course the IP address we want to hit. And it's going to run the scan again. And the idea is you want to run the scan if all possible once, especially if you're trying to be stealthy. You know, so you could of course run this as a stealth scan. You can here we go. So all right, so you see we got output. Let's do. We see here's our bwa.xml, which is XML format. All right, so I'm root user right now. We have the bwa.xml here, and I'm going to start Metasploit. Now before I do, I'm just going to do something called msfdb. Here we can initialize the database, delete it, reinit it, and start it. I'm just going to issue the start command. Make sure it's running. It's using Postgres, I believe, in the back end. No results is good. I mean, it should be running. So our next command is Metasploit console, MSF console. There we go. I'm also Microsoft. All right, so we're going to fire up the console. This is getting us into the framework console. Metasploit has two consoles. There's a free version, which you have here. Free version, of course, is always command line. They have more of a commercial version, which uses a web interface, which is not. It's pretty nice. I barely used it a few times though. I mean, it costs money. You can see Rapid 7 Metasploit here. You can look at more information about it. There's a Pro. It goes way deeper. For us here, we want to have MSF console. So again, we're sitting here. We can actually run a scan from within it, so we can import a scan into it. And so what we want to do is we want to do db, and if I hit tab key, same as our bash shell, we have tab completion. So you see db connect, db export, and so on, db status. It's running, connected to MSF. That's good. That's what we want. In that case, we can do db, and we saw import, and we're going to give the file name. So it should be, since we launched it locally, it should be local here, bwa. And you notice it actually found that. I did tab completion, bwa.xml, and it's going to parse it and do it. Now, great. So we can actually take. This is where if I ran the scan on a different system, and I can dump it to XML, and I can bring it over into here. And again, I have ways to transport that around. So, and we can leverage this further on. But first off, we can see hosts. We can see there's our host. It's been imported. There's the BWA. It's Linux, and we know it's IP address. And we can do services. This is all services. You can do services space and put the I think host name or IP address, and you'll find those up. You can see it brought them over. So it just simply brought in this XML file, parsed it, and put it into our database. And we can actually leverage this and further on in attacks. We'll look at that later. But for now, though, if you wanted to, we can also db. We can scan db nmap. So -sv, and let's also go ahead and scan this OpenSUSE here, 192.168.0.2. So 192.168.0.2. So this actually will scan within Metasploit. So that's what I'm trying to show is that you have multiple ways to do this. The nmap scanner, I believe, is just going to source the external scanner, which it does. I think it's the same one that we ran earlier, but this is a case where I ran nmap on a different system. So yeah, beta 5.1, yeah, and which makes sense, of course. It's not going to Metasploit's not going to build nmap in with it's going to source what's locally installed. But if for some reason I ran an nmap scan on a different system, or I was given the results, I can run it again and see if I have different results. Nmap's pretty solid. If it's open port, it should find it. But it's always worth checking. Never make an assumption. In this case, this thing is running check our OpenSUSE system out. While it's running, we'll look at some other stuff here in a second. What we want to look at though is taking these scan results, and we can search against the exploits that are possible for them. So, of course, while this is running, it takes forever. There we go. All right, it's done. So, hosts. Now you can see I have two hosts. .2 is unknown. It says it's a device, so it must be a device. It thinks it's maybe just a system on the. It's not a server here. But look at services. Again, services shows us all. So the up arrow works, down arrow, and so on. And 192.168.0.2. I can get services just for this host. Again, we have a small list here, so I can type services. I can pick out what I want. We see there's actually a VNC on here. So maybe I want to check that out. So we're going to skip this other host for now. We're going to focus on this new host we brought in. So we have VNC, and it's got on port 80 and port 5801. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a search. Let's see. We're going to search for VNC. There's a bunch of stuff here. and so what you could do is we want to do a further stuff. Here we go. So Metasploit breaks things down into almost like a directory structure. We have auxiliary, exploits, scanners, payloads, and this is as it sounds, post-exploit framework like enumeration, password gatherers, and so on. So it is a fully fledged exploit platform. I know we've got some weird word wrapping here and things, just the text size. Under auxiliary, though, we'll find scanners. So here we find two, auxiliary, VNC login, and none auth. So here's some small description here, but we want auxiliary, scanner, VNC. So I can do info, auxiliary, scanner, VNC, and hit tab again. You can see there's those two. So tab completion is definitely handy here, or you can copy and paste. You can go up here and copy and paste the path. Let's look at this VNC login. Okay, this module tests VNC arranger machine and reports successful logins. So yeah, so this one needs to have, we scroll up a little bit, you can see what it entails here. Blank passwords are false, not required. Brute force speed is set to 5. You can, of course, up or down from 0 to 5. Creds and so on. But again, we need to give it our host, of course, and you'll need to give it a port. And the default port is 5900, so that's something to look at because our port is different. Username blank, author pass file, and so on. Sometimes it might leverage or source possible password files that it currently has. It might need you to supply those, so you need to have those ready. In this case, our pass file looks like it has one, user share vnc password.txt. So it's going to use that password file. So, but before we go on that, let's go and check the other one out too. And that was VNC none auth. Okay, so this is probably a little more one. The previous one was more of an attack. This one's going to be more, does this thing support the none authentication method? Okay, and there's some Wikipedia entries on it here. And of course we can see information about it here. Sometimes it might give you information in the description about the exploit or the vulnerability it's related to it. What we're doing now, we're going to dig into this. We found this out there. We want to see, is this actually exposed? So we're taking that deep dive scan. So I'm going to use auxiliary, scanner, VNC, and VNC none auth. And you can see it has loaded it. It went from here you see this is auxiliary none auth, so we sort of can see it's been loaded. If I do set, you can see exactly what I need to set. Right now, I do need to give it, of course, our port and our host. And we do it, of course, with info. And you just look at info. All right, so it needs to have, of course, yeah, we definitely need a host or hosts, and we need a port. and it's set to 5900, and we're getting one thread, which is probably fine. So right now we know that 5900 is not going to work, and so what we're going to set our hosts. And of course, I hit the tab key, and it did it for me. So 192.168.0.2. And you can see it's been set right here. And we're going to try those two ports. We had ports 5801, and we had ports 5801 and 80. So let's try set our port 5801. If I type set again blank, you can sort of see what's been set here. Our host, our port. So type a blank set, it gives you an idea of what's been set, currently set. And type run, and that will run against 5801. And this is part of the vulnerability scanning process. Sometimes it just don't work. Okay, so this one failed to obtain a banner. So it said completed, but there's nothing here. So let's go ahead and rerun this again. But let's do this. Let's try the other port. And there's times where you might find a vulnerability scanner, it just doesn't work. You don't know why. You can dig into it yourself. I'm not going to get into this one. But I do have two ports open, so I'm going to set our port to 80. Let's type set. You can see, even though I have lowercase r here, and uppercase PRT, you see it did set it. So the case sensitivity is pretty nice. It will automatically toggle for you. I'm going to run it again. There we go. Okay, so it worked. It saw the protocol version. See that authentication method found, scan. So let's say there's no authentication found. So is this a positive result? It's tentative. It might not work. Maybe we'll come back later when we look at actually attacking this. Maybe we'll attack this one and see if we can use the default password. That's more of an exploit execution phase. But for now, though, this is a little demo of how we did that. Of course, you can see in the quick slide deck demo I did how you can do the same thing with the Metasploitable 2 and the actually researching it and actually kicking off the exploit. So in that little slideshow demo there, again, so the idea is you do slide between maybe kicking off an exploit or testing the waters of it. And in that example we did, we got root shell. We're not sure what level we have yet, but we know it works. And that's a positive. And of course that would be a huge hit if you can get remote shell. So times like this you're not sure, but you can use this method to go in, and I can, if I want to, I can look at deeper scanners from a different target. So now, of course, this is a client target. This is broken web app server. We know BWA. It's going to have a bunch of broken stuff. So we'll come back to this. Maybe we'll do a Samba exploit test against it. Samba is always a good one. You see Samba open port 445. That should raise some, especially with anything that's internet facing. That would raise your alarm systems up here. Maybe Apache might be vulnerable or not. There's two of them there, with 443 of course, and 80, and so on. So anyways, leave it at that. That's a demo of sort of just taking the next step in. Again, I talked about in the thing there, this could be done outside of this. It could be I ran Nikto and Burp Suite against my web thing, and then actually you'll see that we actually have attacks and exploits against different types of targets. So when we get deeper into this, exploiting application vulnerabilities, we'll look at maybe even exploiting host vulnerabilities and so on. So we'll take deeper dives into actually looking at these exploits. But for now, you can set yourself up with further scanning with other tools. So I hope this demo was helpful. Thank you for watching.